This is Minutia Men with Rick and Dave.
So Dave is not here physically in the studio this morning, but it doesn't mean that he's not participating, because today it's a very special Minutia Men.
The following is a Tony Lasano podcast, an Opie production on the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. This is Minutia Men with Rick and Dave.
And it's mostly Rick, I'll be honest with you, because Dave is a little under the weather. Can't make it into the studio today, but this very, this very special Minutia Men will cover some important stuff that has been going on. This last week has been a rough week for celebrities, people that we know, people that we've talked about on this show. We've lost several of them. Bob Uecker passed away. Jeff Torborg, who was the manager of the Chicago White Sox, passed away, as did famous director David Lynch. I've got stories about all of those people, and I'm bringing in celebrities to tell them. We'll have Mark Giangreco tell the Jeff Torborg story. Skip Graperis, who was the sidekick to Bob Uecker in Major League. He'll come in and tell us all about that. Also, there's a David Lynch story that Bob Stroud is going to help me tell that is a memorable one. There's also one other thing going on in the news. I don't know if you've noticed this, but apparently there's going to be a new president. There's a new president as of this moment. As I'm recording this on Monday, we have a brand new president. And so we have some presidential stories to share as well. We've got a story about Bill Clinton. We got a story about Barack Obama. And we have a story about the new president, Donald Trump. So all of that is coming up. But why don't we start it off here by let's go back in time here and talk to our friend Skip Graperis, because this is a sad day in baseball when we lose the great Bob Uecker. And Skip was by his side in the filming of Major League and told us all about him.
It's just really a matter of doing sexual favors for the right person,
Okay.
and that's how you get a partner. No, it was I had been auditioning and working as an actor, part time back then, and they filmed the first Major League in Milwaukee, so they came to Chicago to find people to flesh out the cast, and I just auditioned at Jane Alderman's casting outfit, and actually most of my audition was as a baseball player for an opposing team. And then they said, okay, well, we'd like you to read for Color Man, which I knew they might ask me. So I just had one line, and my line was, you can't say fucking on the air.
Well, you can say it on the podcast. No problems there, Skip.
Right. And I did kind of a visual take, and they laughed, and I figured I just blew another audition.
Yeah.
Most of them. And 2 weeks later, they gave me a call and said, "You're Color Man."
Wow,
so,
that's fantastic.
And that scene is famous. That scene is famous. That's like,
it is very famous, except it got cleaned up for the movie. Bob wasn't comfortable. His line was, "Is that all we got? One hit? One fucking hit?" and he was doing, beer commercials and stuff at the time, and I think he was concerned about the image or whatever, so they changed it to goddamn.
all right.
I think it was goddamn, or was it just one damn? I think it was goddamn. Yeah, I think they used goddamn. Yeah, so they cleaned it up a little bit, but anyway, so the first one was just tremendously fun. It was shot in June in Milwaukee, and it was beautiful weather, and at the old Brewer Stadium.
County Stadium.
I don't know.
County Stadium.
Yeah, and because they wanted to use the Cleveland Stadium because it's about the Cleveland Indians, but was not available. There's scheduling problems. So I think they did a few exteriors there, and then did all the shooting in Milwaukee.
I didn't know that.
And it was great. And nobody knew, what was going to happen in the movie. It's just, it's a movie, and it seemed funny, but could never have predicted that 30 years later people would still be watching it and talking about it and celebrating the anniversary. It's just insane. Now, the second one was filmed at Camden Yards. This is like 5 years later. Camden Yards in Baltimore, only it was in November. And
Ouch.
we're still outside, and dressed in summer clothes, and we had a little heater under the table there, but it was freezing. It was 40 degrees. You could see I could see my breath.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, how can they film this? It's going to show up that you can see our breath, but somehow I didn't see it. When
Magic
I watched the movie,
of the movies.
I guess. And Bob, there's this one scene where Bob passes out drunk in Major League 2. And then I have to take over. But I looked over at him. He said something, "You take over, Monty," something like that. And I looked over at him, and he was wearing just a tank top. And it's, so cold out. His muscles were spasming.
Wow.
It was so cold. I looked at his side muscles there, and they were spasming. But he was, keeping it together. So and then the director got the flu and was just a bear to work with. In fact, the second half of the shoot, he went to a private studio, and we communicated by walkie-talkie.
You're kidding.
No.
Wow.
No. So that one was not fun, but and it wasn't nearly as good either. They kind of sold the rights. I don't think this one was not. The director was the one that David S. Ward also wrote the first one.
Okay.
And it was very, it's a really solid movie. Very funny.
Yeah. Great. It's still funny.
The second one, not, the plot's not so great, and it just wasn't that great as most sequels.
And Uecker's quote about "just a bit outside" gets quoted all the time still if you watch baseball games.
Mm-hmm.
Just a bit outside or whatever. Yeah.
Must be in the front row.
Yeah.
Vaughn into the windup in his first offering. Just a bit outside. He tried the corner and missed. Ball 4. Ball 8. Low, and Vaughn has walked the bases loaded on 12 straight pitches.
Bob Uecker will not be replaced. He was one of the all-time greats. We lost another baseball guy here in Chicago this week. Jeff Torborg was once the manager of the Chicago White Sox. And we had sportscaster Mark Giangreco on the show, who knew Jeff back in the day and actually has a great story about Jeff. But it starts with a different story, all right? I'm going to play you a little clip from our interview with Mark. It starts with an embarrassing story about me, and it goes into a story about Jeff Torborg. It's all related to our days working at the Loop. Here we go. I agree. I still have nightmares, though, about your time on with us because of the back timing issue. You'd have to back time into the sportscast, and then it was a delay issue too, where if you're on the radio, you have to be in delay, especially with the Loop listeners who are completely untrustworthy. So they had to be put on delay, and then I had to take you out of delay when you did the live television spots. And one time I forgot to do it, and we were playing a Jimi Hendrix song, and I thought you could just press the button and it would go back out of delay. What I didn't realize is during a song, there needs to be silence for the delay to kick back in, and there's no silence in the song, and so it sounded like a psychedelic.
Yeah, well, we were all doing acid.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Anyway, so.
It worked because it was Jimi Hendrix. Everyone thought it was for real.
Yeah, well, you know what? That's your job, Rick. You're the tech guy. I'm just going to roll with the stuff.
Oh, it was definitely my fault. It was 100% my fault.
I miss those days so much. I remember the reverse. I was on vacation one day while working at Channel 5, and they didn't have anybody to fill in for me. We had gone through 4 or 5 weekend people, and we still didn't have a full staff. So I said, hey, I'm going on vacation. I don't care. I'm not canceling my vacation. They got Kevin Matthews as Jim Short to do my sportscast. But, of course, Jimmy was not on camera. So they had an empty chair and Kevin's voice. And they had we had already set up a live shot at Sox Park. Let's see, Jeff Torborg was the manager. So we had already set up this live shot. I thought for sure they'd cancel it. Oh, no. They had Jimmy interview Torborg. And he's like, all right, coach, let's get right to it. What time's the game? And Torborg's standing there going, what? And he was trying to be nice. And then Jimmy asked like 2 more really stupid questions. And Torborg was trying to play it safe. So we end the live shot and they go on. And then Jimmy's just going, all right, yeah, Cubs, Fox, Bulls, yeah, good night. And the next day, I'm at the ballpark, and Torborg comes running across the field at me like, what was that? What was that? I go, I'm sorry.
I was on vacation. I don't know.
They were going to cancel it. He goes, I thought he was like a disabled old man. I just wanted to respect him. I just trying to. I said, Jeff, you are awesome, man. Thank you so much.
That's Jeff Torborg. Hey, that's a story told by Mark J. Greco. Thanks again to Mark for coming on. Still to come in the show, I've got a couple of presidential stories that you're going to love. But we did lose another icon here in Chicago. And he wasn't actually a Chicagoan, but he spent a lot of time here, filmed some movies here. David Lynch, one of the greatest film directors of all time. If you've seen Blue Velvet, which is just one of those films, if you've seen it, you'll never forget it. He was the man behind that, and Eraserhead, and many other great movies. But the thing that I remember him for the most is the show Twin Peaks, which was a groundbreaking film, or groundbreaking TV series. And it was such a big thing that we had a big party. I was working at the Loop at that time. Bob Stroud was one of the disc jockeys there, and he invited a bunch of us over to his house. And maybe one of the most embarrassing things that ever happened to me, much more embarrassing than the story that I told her with Mark J. Greco, is what happened to me during the final episode of Twin Peaks. So this is our connection to David Lynch. I'm going to tell the story directly to Bob Stroud. Here we go. I'll tell you a story that I don't think I've ever told you before. I haven't confessed this to you, but it's one of the most embarrassing things that ever happened to me, and it happened in your condo. Would you like to hear it?
Really? Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this, but
do you really want to hear this?
Yeah.
In the late 80s.
I've just broke out into cold.
Yeah. Okay. You invited a bunch of us over there to watch the series finale of Twin Peaks. Do you remember that?
Wow, I remember that, yeah.
So during the first commercial break, I took the opportunity to use your restroom. And I don't know if it's still like this or if you still live in the same place, but the inside of your bathroom door did not have a doorknob. Uh-huh. It was like a trick or something. And I'm not exactly a handy guy. I could not figure out how to open the door. And so I was stuck in there. I was too embarrassed to call out for help. Plus everybody was watching the show. I didn't want to break anything. So I spent the next 20 minutes trying to figure out how to get out of the damn bathroom.
It's a doorknob, not a Rubik's Cube.
Well, I mean, I'm telling, wasn't it a weird doorknob or something?
Look. Yeah, I hope this makes you feel better. But myself and everybody else who went into that bathroom for the first time had that same issue.
Oh, thank God.
Well, and Mickey Rooney's still there, right?
And Milton Berle. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, that does make me feel better because I was flop sweating. I'm like, this is because tomorrow everyone's gonna know that I got trapped in Bob's bathroom, and Steve and Gary are gonna rip me a new one. It's like, and I just was, my life was flashing before my eyes.
And you were missing Twin Peaks,
and I was missing Twin Peaks. Yeah.
You had no idea.
And the bean dip.
No, I've had people in that bathroom pounding on the door, screaming for help. Is this a trick? Yeah. Are you trying to do something to me? What? And it's. I don't know where that door mechanism came from. And yes, I'm still in the same condo. Yeah. But
have you replaced it? Do you still have the same door?
No, it's too much fun.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so simple. It's just you just push it in. That's what she said, and the door opens. And
well, there's a warning to anyone who goes to visit Bob.
Right.
Ask for a little description before you go into the bathroom. That's right. There he is, Bob Stroud, one of the all-time great rock and roll disc jockeys. All right, as I mentioned, obviously you know this too. It's a presidential week. We've got a new president coming into office. And we'll be talking about him again for the next 4 years. And we have actually one or two stories about him told by someone who knows him well, and that's Anthony Scaramucci. That'll be coming up in a bit. But just to show you that we cover all presidents of both parties, want to bring in a moment from the Clinton presidency, if you don't mind. I have previously played a parody song that I wrote called He's the President, about Bill Clinton and his proclivities when he was the president. But that was not the only song we did about Bill Clinton. In fact, after the Monica Lewinsky scandal came out with the blue dress, it was only natural that we went to this song and we did a parody of it. This is John Landecker and the Legends singing the song Intern with the Blue Dress.
Blue dress, enter with the stained blue dress. Monica Lewinsky ran it out of her fare, but Bill Clinton never thought that she would dare. But Monica can tell you when and where the president gave her some gel for her hair. Now Bill is cooked, cause Monica sings, and he spilled his DNA on everything. Enter with the blue dress, enter with the stained blue dress. Come on! Enter with the blue dress, enter with the stained blue dress. Fee, fee, fi, fi, for full form. A lovely intern blew the White House down. She used a cigar, but he didn't inhale. Now he's just hoping to stay out of jail. Bill could have kept his butt off the grill if only he paid the intern's dry cleaning bill. Intern with the blue dress, enter with the stained blue dress. Enter with the blue dress, enter with the stained blue dress. Good guy, let's slick a wheel. He sure likes them all. Good guy, let's slick a wheel. He sure likes them all. Good guy, let's slick a wheel. I doesn't manage to do it with Secret Service in the hall. Come on, always blow for me.
There it is. Intern with the Stained Blue Dress is the name of our little song. Bill Clinton, memorable for some of the more tawdry side of things. Donald Trump also. We'll get to that in just a bit here. But there's one president over the last 25 years who was really not known for any controversy of any kind. And I think this story that the jazz vocalist Kurt Elling tells us about former President Barack Obama kind of brings that into light. He got to know him. He got to play a concert for him at the White House. And, well, I'll let Kurt tell that story. But there's a show in 2009 that really caught my eye. You played a state dinner at the White House. Mm-hmm. Now I got to ask you a couple questions about this. First, how's the food at those things? And second, did Barack Obama ask about the plant he gave you a few years earlier? This is a story that I heard. Can you tell that story?
I'll tell the story.
Go ahead.
So my wife and I we're Hyde Park people by history. I was down there for graduate school, and then when I was broke and living in a guy's basement, and she was down there because her mom had a place, and yada yada. So a lot of time down in Hyde Park. Then we had our first apartment down there, and then after a bunch of years, my wife got pregnant, which was killing and beautiful. But at that very same time, it just happened that Barack was elected to the U.S. Senate. So we were looking for a place to amp it up a little bit because we needed, some upgrades in what we owned. Because, you got a kid coming.
Yeah. Sure.
So, and at the same time, Barack was looking to amp it up because his book sales were going through the roof. and he's a U.S. senator, so he's looking for a big Senate mansion, and we're looking for laundry in unit.
Right.
Yeah, right. Maybe cable. Right.
Maybe some early Wi-Fi. So it just, it happened. I was looking. We wanted to stay in Hyde Park, and I was looking around, and Jennifer was out of town, and I'm looking through these apartments, and how when you stage an apartment for people, you take out all of the personal photos and everything like that. But there were a couple of little signs, I think maybe that the real estate person had left behind.
Sure.
And I'm like, hey, is this Barack and Michelle's? Because I had done, a couple of benefits when he was running for state senator. And so, we had talked about John Coltrane and talked about some jazz stuff and then, shaking hands and whatever. So I'm like, hey, is this Barack and Michelle's place? And she's like, well, we're not supposed to say. And I said, this place is sold.
Oh, that's
sold
awesome.
to me right now. There's no way, because this deal is going to be clean. There's going to be no surprises. If there are surprises, it's going to be right. And anything that's good enough for this guy raising his family is good enough for me and my family. So we're moving in, and he brings, he brought a plant over for us. And he's like, okay, so, by the way, the oven, you sort of need to jiggle the thing in order to, okay, so this is all real. And then meanwhile, the guy who's driving him around goes to my wife and he says, hey, by the way, here's the list of all the baddies in the neighborhood.
Oh,
because, it's city.
Sure.
He's like,
sure.
So here's a list of all the people to stay away from. Here's the creeps. Don't show this list. This is for you from Barack, because keep your family safe. And so that's how it was. So every time, so I've been able to play the White House now. Let's see, I did an International Jazz Day thing. I'm looking for the date, 2016, and then we did the state dinner as well. And the president was always he's got an incredible memory, as anybody who's as brilliant as he is going to have. But it's always funny because Michelle will be like, Barack, you remember Kurt Elling? He blah blah. He's like, I know.
You don't have to talk to me that way.
I'm the president.
Yeah, right. It's like I'm the president. I got it. We got a photo together the first time out, and I, you're trying to be cool and relaxed and say something smart, and so it's the three of us, and I'm like, Mrs. First Lady, those are beautiful earrings. They're fantastic. And we get our picture taken, and he goes, they better be the price I paid.
I think what I love is that their relationship is just like every man and woman who's married.
Yes,
she's still pissed about the way he folds his socks or whatever. Or
doesn't fold anything.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Would it kill you to put the butter in the dish, Barack?
But what about the plant? There was some sort of a plant that he gave you?
Oh, like a house plant kind of a thing, like a housewarming.
Oh,
vibe.
okay, all right.
So, we've been living in New York for the past 12 years. We just moved back to Chicago last summer about this time. And so, the plant's been it's grown and it's been, shipped around to various relatives because you don't want to drive a thing like that around.
Sure. Yeah.
Who knows if it's even going to survive,
Well, you have to Obamacare for it. Did you see what I did there?
Did
you see what I did there?
We got to walk around with a snare drum for you. We really do. So you didn't mention the food at the White House. I don't
remember the food. I don't remember the food. They kept us in a they called it the map room. That was like our waiting room for that thing. And then the other time it was all, man, they got so many people to serve.
I know.
It's like, what am I? They're not going to give me the same food they give the Prime Minister of India or something,
Right. That's a good point. Yeah.
But I mean, it's cool, and there's plenty of wine, and you don't want to drink too much like you usually do because you don't want to be.
Right. Yeah.
And there's another thing.
Hey, let's have Kurt. Isn't he the guy who
got liquored up
in the map room last year?
Yeah, right.
And took the towel.
Prime Minister saying, man, you're so... I love Indian food, dude.
Yeah. There he is. Grammy-winning jazz vocalist Kurt Elling. So we're talking about a very normal-sounding president, right? The one that is going to be taking his place is a little different, maybe more towards the entering with the blue dress sort of approach. And to prove that, we have a couple of clips here that I'd like to share with you from Anthony Scaramucci, who knew him, talked to him, and had some opinions about Mr. Trump. And again, this is the former communications director for President Trump in his first term. He lasted exactly 11 days. And if you hear these clips, I think you may understand why. Here is Anthony Scaramucci.
For mankind, the biggest tragedy is I don't think Trump has been laid in 3 years.
Yeah,
you
really.
Can't get access. You can't get access to Pornhub in the White House. They got those sites blocked.
Well, you would know.
This is I would know, by the way. But this is a guy, okay, that has literally probably not had a sexual encounter, in 3 years, which I think is another big problem for the civilization. You know what I mean? Someone should let him get laid at least. You know what I mean?
Why Melania looks so warm next to him?
He also told us this story.
One time I'm on the Bill Maher show. I was defending him. Stormy Daniels was on the show with me. And by the way, that's another issue. Trump has probably heard the following 4 words, okay, that no man can recover from. You want to hear the 4 words?
Sure. Yes.
Yeah, is it in yet? Those 4 words no man can recover from, okay? And after listening to Stormy, I'm sure that's another problem that this guy's living with,
So there we go. That's our very special edition. I hope Dave is feeling better. He is he's a man who gives and gives and gives, and we just need to give him some space. But he'll be back again next week because we will have another edition of the show. Meantime, we need to thank some people. We have to thank Tony Lasano with Opie Shows. Thank you, Tony. Thanks also to Ed Silla with the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. Great Talk Radio isn't dead. It just moved to a better place, and that's radiomisfits.com. And we'll be back again next week with a brand new episode of Minutia Men.
The proceeding was a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. Find our other great shows on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and at radiomisfits.com. Thank you.
This has been a presentation of Opie Productions.
Tony, can you shut up?